Welcome to Parenthood Bites, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 78 of Parenthood Bites. We're here with Nam, who is the Director of Product Management at Oracle. Hi Nam, how are you today?
Hey, Chow, doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. For the listeners, they don't know, I think it's been about, you were just saying 15 years since I talked to you, right? Because we worked together at IGN a long time ago.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like my first job out of college, and you're like my first real manager. And even though it was only about 5 months or so, I feel like I look back on that time in a very impactful lens, like my introduction to work, introduction to a career in like the technology field, and just learning how to like operate as an adult. So I think back of those times pretty fondly. So it's nice to reconnect.
Yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, I think back to that a lot too. And I'm like, wow, that was so long ago, but it doesn't feel that long ago, But then if I look at it, I'm like, wow, we all have kids now. And that was way before all of that, right? Where it was like, okay, I feel like I could stay at work as late as possible back then. It was like, okay, I could do whatever. And now it's like, no, things have changed.
Yeah. So different, so different.
Yeah. So how many kids do you have now and what are their ages?
So I have 2 kids, 2 boys. Liam is about 4.5. He is super curious, always very chatty. Sometimes we'll sit there and we'll eat dinner with him, and it'll be like 2 hours later, and we're like, "All right, we got to wrap this up, buddy. Like, let's eat and like not just keep talking about stuff." He has very strong feelings, so a lot of work with him is trying to help him understand his feelings and work through them. And then Dylan is about 1.5, and he's starting to become his own person now. He's very different. He's pure joy, just super resilient, but he lacks like a sense of self-preservation in a sense. He started walking when he was 9. He'll like run straight off a bed, like no, just no thought. Whereas the first one, he was like super cautious, and Dylan's extroverted, whereas me and my wife are introverted. And we're just like, how do we like create this kid that's just so different than us? And it's just so interesting to see how different they are naturally, right? Something that really surprised my wife and I, because she's like, it's just another boy. Like, how different can it be? I'm sure you've experienced that as well.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, right? Because you raise them the same way, and then it's like their personalities at such a young age, it already shines through.
Yeah, it's really incredible how that happens.
Yeah, but I love that you were saying your oldest one just loves to talk and share a lot of things. I think when my kids were little, they talked a lot. I was kind of like, oh my gosh, stop talking. But then now it's like they don't want to talk. Now as teenagers, it's like, how was your day? How was everything? Fine. What was, what was the best part? Lunch. And then it was just like, so I kind of miss where they would just unfiltered, just share everything.
Yeah. What age did that start changing for you and your kids?
I feel like around 11, 12, when they start middle school, that's when I was like, whoa, they're getting exposed to a lot more things, but also, the way they talk, the mannerism is a little bit different. And then that's when they start wanting cell phones. I mean, let's be real. My 9-year-old, he wants a cell phone too, because he sees his brothers having it. But I think when they see their classmates having it is in middle school and stuff. And that's when they start wanting to be on their phones or wanting to be in their rooms, after dinner, I'm still eating or whatever. And then I look up and I'm like, hey, where'd everyone go? So now I'm like, no, you're going to stay here until everyone's done eating, because I'm not trying to eat by myself. That's not why I had kids.
Oh man, I don't even know how to deal with that, right? Like something that we didn't have to really deal with growing up. I guess that would be the challenge for our generation, dealing with kids with technology and cell phones and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't dare leave the table before everyone else is done. It wasn't a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, let's make sure they don't. But that's really awesome that he shares his day and talks about, is it just sharing his day, or does he just talk about a bunch of different things?
I don't even know. The kid logic, just goes off.
Yeah.
And everything you have to unpack, right? Because it's like, why does God stay at church? Doesn't he get lonely? And then you're just like, how many layers of this do I need to
Right.
unpack? You know,
Yeah.
or like,
Yeah.
why did he get rid of the dinosaurs? And it's like, oh, and you start explaining things, and like he'll just keep going in and in, and he's really curious about nature and like why certain things happen. And I'll happily like explain to him like where does rain come from and talk about the water life cycle and stuff. And he'll just keep wanting to learn more and more and more.
I love that. Just really curious. Yeah, the
Yeah.
other day my 9-year-old asked me something. I was like, he goes, "Why does your car let you go to really fast speeds if we're not allowed to drive that fast?" Right? Like you'll get ticketed for driving that fast. So why does it go
Mm.
that fast? I was like, "You should Google that, buddy."
It's a good point though. It's a valid.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, that's fair." But I don't know. I was like, "You know what? You should practice using Google. That's a good skill to have."
Yeah. Sometimes I say, "Oh, go ask your mom." I think your mom will do a better job at answering that than me.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
So, what brought you to a career in tech?
I would say that I've probably tried to not be in tech probably about 3 times or so in my career now. And it's always brought me back because it's been so practical, I think. And just like in the area that we live in, it's just hard to avoid regardless of where you go. So in high school, I actually wanted to be in film, do film. And I loved like history and like literature and things like that. I did okay in math and science and so forth, but I didn't love it. Whereas I think most people that engineers that you may talk to, like, oh, I loved math and science, right? I was a different direction. And I worked with this lady who went to film school. And she told me that out of the 50 people who graduated in her class, she went to like some advanced master's degree in film or whatever. Only 3 of them were working in film. And so she told me, if you want to do something in film, do it on the side, but like you need to find something else to do. And so my dad was pushing me for like technology, do something computer science related. So I probably could have gotten more guidance into what major I picked in school. But I just went down the major list. I'm like, okay, that sounds like computer science stuff. And then I eventually picked one when I went to school. It was like, there's computer science major, there's this electrical engineering and computer science. I'm like, oh, maybe two is better than one. Let's just pick that. So I just picked it, right? And so that's like the first time where it's like I actually want to do something else. But I guess practicality purposes, I don't even know if that was practicality, but it was more of like what my dad told me to do. So I picked that, went to school, graduated, got my butt kicked throughout school, trying to like get through that major. And then coming out of school, a lot of my friends in class wanted to go work for like Microsoft, Google, and so forth. And I went in, or I wanted to go into consulting, like management consulting, the business world. And I think you kind of remember some of this too, because when I went to IGN, I had similar decision points to make. But this was in 2008 when I recruited. I got a job in management consulting, and then 2009 comes around, and all of a sudden they come back and they tell me, well, we're not sure if we want to actually start you or not. We're going to push out your offer by half a year, and then we'll check back in with you because people there were hiring freezes, people were losing their jobs. They didn't really know if they wanted to take on a new class of just fresh kids from college. And so that's when I started interviewing, and I interviewed with IGN, and I interned with you. And I remember David was who I interviewed with for about 5 months or so. That job was pretty fun for me, actually. I really enjoyed going in and like just, you get the dopamine hit from like, getting your code to work and something to show up on the screen. Like it was nice. It was fun. It was engaging. And then at the end of those 5 months, my full-time job for management consulting came back and they said, okay, we're ready to start you. What do you want to do? And at that point, I had an opportunity to stay on at IGN or go do the consulting thing. And ultimately, I went away from tech again, right? I figured I can always come back and do more computer science stuff. I wanted to explore the business world. So I left, went to Accenture, and worked there for about 9 years or so. That lifestyle was very different. So I was traveling every single week. Every Sunday, I'd be at an airport, flying somewhere. I'd live in hotels for the whole week and then fly back every Thursday, mostly to the East Coast. So I was like living in airports for many years. And my girlfriend at the time, and then my wife, ultimately, she said, well, when are you going to be home? This lifestyle isn't good for having a family. And so then eventually the practical side of things made me look more locally again. And about 7 years or so ago, I made the choice to leave consulting, join project management. So now I'm local. I work in tech again, right? After like 3 times of trying to like do something else. And I think it took me a while to adjust to just the career, the field, the lifestyle, because I really loved my job in consulting. But now I've come to understand that like it's where I should be, I guess. Maybe tech is where I should be, for the lifestyle benefits, for the work itself, Just it makes more sense. And maybe life has tried to tell me enough times that I should just be in tech and be happy with it. So long journey. But
Yeah, it makes sense for kind of the lifestyle
mhm.
and things like that. But you mentioned earlier you're more introverted. When you're consulting, do you have to talk to a lot of people? Like when I think about consulting, I'm like, oh gosh, you got to talk to different people.
Yeah, it's very opposite from my personality because I am very introverted. Like naturally, I should probably be an engineer, but it helped stretch me in ways that was really beneficial. Like, it forced me to be out there and talk to people, lead meetings, and I think I was able to use a lot of my technology and analytical mindset to bring like a different flavor to it. I'll never be like the partner who's like selling a ton of work because that's just not my personality. But I was still able to be flexible in that type of workforce. And then now it helps with product management because it's kind of the same thing. I have to work with both engineers and a lot of other people. And it's very similar to consulting in that sense.
That's neat. So you're not coding now?
No, it's just full time product management. And some product roles require you to be more technical. This one doesn't, or at least in my organization now. So it's at least when I'm talking to engineers, I can understand like what they're talking about. So
Right,
I think
right.
that helps.
That's neat. So were you already out of consulting when you became a parent?
Yeah, I was probably back in this role, this product management role that was more local for about 2 years before actually becoming a parent. And so in those 2 years, I think I struggled a lot in the change. I also took a small step back in my career. I went from a role where I was managing a very large team to becoming an individual contributor again, to learn product management and just to be able to make that jump. And so I was struggling a lot with my career growth, maybe a bit of my identity and what I felt like I was able to do or should have been able to accomplish. And I was struggling with it a lot because this was or I made the change for a future benefit of once I have kids, that I'll benefit from it. But I didn't yet within those 2 years. And I think it took taking kids for me to fully like realize the benefits of my transition and then finally appreciate it.
So was it kind of like after you had your first kid, then you started to realize like, oh, this is good for me.
Yeah, like I think as like when you're in 20s, early 30s, and you're living out of hotels, you have no life, right? You're not hanging out with friends, you're not doing sports or getting dinner with people. You're just working, and you think that your whole life can be just work, and that's normal. And it's not until afterwards that you get out of that lifestyle that you realize that there's more to it than just work and career progression and just grinding so much. And I think you need something to appreciate outside of work for you to like actually appreciate the work life benefits of having time out of work. And if there's nothing else for you to look forward to, like kids or being able to see friends or spending time with your family, then it's hard to really understand what you're missing out on.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's really cool that you were able to get the time to focus on that. And then now it's like, okay, now it's time to focus on family. So you were able to experience both sides of it. So, what was the parental leave like when you had your first and then second child?
When I had my first one, they allowed 10 months. Oh no, sorry, not 10 months, 10 weeks.
Whoa, I was like,
That'd be
10 months.
crazy.
Where is
Yeah,
that?
this isn't Canada, right? Or other countries like that. We had 10 weeks for the first one. And then by the time I got to my second one, we had 14, which was nice. And at Oracle now, they actually matched what dads get with what moms get, which I thought was very cool. And I think just having that time initially is just so important just to get things off in terms of how you manage the household, how you manage the kids, the expectations, I think, between parents. And I see it as a disservice to both parents for not having as much time for a dad. They let you take it like you can split it up or you can take it all at once. And the first time my manager told me, he's like, the business is going to keep going. Just take your time. Don't worry about us. Whatever you decide, just do whatever fits for you. And since it's your first kid, he thinks it's such like a new and interesting experience that taking it all at once isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just go spend your time and have fun, right? He's like, it's not gonna be fun, but he's like, go have fun, and yeah, just come back and we'll deal with it. And so he's very supportive. So I did that. When the second one came along, I also took all 14 weeks upfront, but that one was more like it was a tougher time period in my work career where I was just starting to feel a little bit of burnout and I just felt like I needed a break, a change of pace from something. So I decided to just take it all up front and then let the cards fall wherever they did. And I'll come back later and deal with it.
Yeah, that's awesome that you had a supportive manager, someone who's encouraging you to take the time. Because I think, especially for the first one, a lot of times we're like, do we? Should we? What's going to happen? And it sounds like he was able to put your mind at ease. And that's really great. So, what was it like kind of coming back to work? in both instances?
Coming back for the first time, I think initially it wasn't as big of a shock because my wife still had more time off than me. Her company allowed her to stack up her PTO, then so she had a few more months. So I think the biggest change came when we started daycare, really, and both parents were back at work because then my wife wasn't able to handle as much of the day to day, and now it's like split in a household where both parents are working. And so you end up with this initial shock. It's kind of like all your energy is just devoted to like getting through the day sometimes. Like you're constantly washing bottles or pump parts or sanitizing stuff and, feeding every few hours. And then I guess I didn't realize how long it was for babies until they actually like sleep through the night. I'm like, man, you have to teach these kids everything. Like, how do they survive? They don't know how to like drink milk. They don't know how to eat. They don't know how to sleep. I thought that was like the most natural thing, right? Sleep, you're tired. Why are you crying? Both my wife and I, just like every ounce of energy we had just like went into caring for this kid, which then made me more empathetic towards parents who worked, people on my team who are either going through pregnancies or coming back from their leaves. It's like what they're dealing with is different than what they had beforehand. And I can't necessarily expect them to be the same person before. So at the very least, it helped me be more empathetic towards others in the workforce. Whereas as a 20-year-old kid, the consulting world where we're working like 60, 80 hours, there was no concept of like people and their families and their other obligations and maybe even the energy they may have showing up to work every day. So,
Yeah, it's just focus on work, right? Like you
mhm.
said, not even any free time to hang out with friends or anything. It's just work, work, work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, do you have childcare support or at home is just you and your wife?
At home, it's just me and my wife, and they both kids are in daycare now. And yeah, my mom is about 45 minutes away or so. I think the biggest help from her has been just food. Whenever we visit, she'll cook for us, and so we're good for a few days. And early on, she cooked for us a lot too. From a day to day perspective, it's just me and my wife.
Wow. So, how early did you send them to daycare?
I think it was about like 6 months or so, which at the time felt kind of early too, because as a 6 month old, they're so small, they don't really understand what's going on. But I think it's been very good because the daycare we have is at her workplace. And they have like a daycare center there because their company's big enough where enough parents need that service. So it's nice to be able to drop them off, have them with other parents who you trust. And I think the development they have in daycare is so different than what I had growing up. My mom stayed at home. And so I was at home doing who knows what. I don't know. I'm sure she tried to teach me stuff, but like the things they get to do at daycare are things we wouldn't do with them at home. The artwork, the drawing, the learning. I don't know. There's just so much that they get. That's really cool.
And the socialization,
Mm-hmm.
right? That they get really early on. But did the pandemic affect any of that?
Oh yeah. So my older one, he was born in 2020. So that was like right in the middle of the pandemic. I don't know if you remember, but during the fall, there was this weird week in the Bay Area where everything was like all red because there's like fires and stuff. You step outside, like the sky was all red.
I
So that was when
remember.
he was actually born. And so
Oh,
our car ride on the way back, it was just so strange. Like, first of all, we felt, okay, it's just us kids. Now we have all this care of a little kid by ourselves. They really trust us. Like that moment when the nurses aren't around anymore, it's like, oh, so that's it. We're responsible for this thing now. And they're driving home. It felt so surreal. The sky was all red. And we're like, wow, this is so crazy. But yeah, it was all in the middle of the pandemic still, I think. And their daycare, when we started, was just opening back up. And we couldn't even go all the way into the classroom. Like they had to have a teacher come out and like get them from the front lobby area. And like protocols were so different. And oh, the moment that your kid got sick, you had to stay out for 2 weeks at home.
like that was it.
Yeah, yeah. You couldn't like go back in until you had like a doctor's note or some period of time. And yeah, so learning how to manage a kid at home while you're both working was also really difficult. It was us looking at our calendars saying, well, do you have this hour versus that hour? And obviously your calendars don't just naturally align. So it's like, well, how important is your meeting versus my meeting? And sometimes you just have to like make that sacrifice.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's not like, with older kids, you can say, okay, don't come in my room for a little bit. It's like, it's a baby. You can't, they don't understand, right? When they need something, they need something.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't understand that either. I thought that like they can just be there next to you or something. But now my son, who's a 4-year-old, when he's sick, it's fine. I give him some Play-Doh or things to play with, and he'll just be there. He'll still interrupt me and like join the meeting and stuff, but it's much better. Yeah.
Right, right. You can at least occupy him,
Hmm.
for like 10 minutes or whatever that is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that really resonated with me when you said, like, oh, we were just on our own with this baby. Cause, like, that's how I felt, even in the hospital room, right? After I had the baby and they cleaned them up, they just left. And I was like, do you really trust me with this crying thing? Like, no one even was like, this is how you change a diaper or whatever,
Hmm.
right? They're just like, okay, this is how you swaddle, good luck. And you're like, what is happening? That was really terrifying because I was
Yeah.
really scared I was gonna hurt the baby. But then I was like, I guess they trust me because it's my kid. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like my parents figured it out somehow and I'm alive, so I guess I could do it.
Right. Can't be that hard if there's a lot of people
Yeah,
who
yeah.
survived, right? So, if you recall, was there a mother's room at work?
I don't think my wife really returned to full time work for a long time. So she was at home a lot of the time. But I do think that she had a mother's room because she mentioned having to like go to a different floor and grab her parts and stuff. It was a lot, right? Like having all your pump parts and your pump itself, and like it's just such a big interruption to her day and how often she had to do it. So she did that for like a year for each kid, and it was a lot. It's like mentally, physically exhausting. And I saw what she went through, and it's a lot. And I think I gained a lot of respect for her and just women in general for what they have to go through before and after birth. And it's just so much. It's so incredible.
Yeah, and good for her for, sticking to it for a year. It's obviously everybody's
Hmm.
personal preference, but like you said, it's just a lot to go through. So, what's something that you would tell someone who's planning to have kids or something you wish you knew before you became a parent?
What I didn't realize is how much I would change, and the things that I thought I would care about, I no longer cared about or thought about things in a different way. And so you can't really anticipate how much of your mindset's going to shift or how you view the world is just going to change so much. So I would probably tell myself, don't worry so much. Don't try to plan ahead too much. Just kind of take it as it comes, enjoy it, and just understand that the way you think about it is going to be different. So, and it's hard to know how you're going to react to it, how you're going to change, and what you're going to value, moving forward.
Right. Right. Did you feel like you try to plan a lot before having kids?
It wasn't as much planning outside of like my career change, which I thought was, if I only knew how important it was, I think I wouldn't have struggled as much with the change. I would have thought that yes, it absolutely makes sense for me to do it versus like battling with myself. Because thinking back, it's like I did have a lot of colleagues who were still in consulting, they have kids, but at least in how I'm like at home with my kids and the things that I now value and appreciate. For me, I don't think that I could be in that type of lifestyle and still like be as happy as I am. So I know it's different for everyone, but I probably wouldn't have struggled as much. And I didn't plan a lot, but I probably had like preconceptions of what I would be like as a dad. And it's just totally different. It's like you don't know what you're going to be like, or and it's a lot of idealistic thinking. You think like, oh, when I'm a dad, I'm not going to do this, or
Right, right. But like you said, when you have the kids, they're so different, right? Even when you have the first one, you're like, oh, okay, we'll totally, raise the second one this way. Everything will be, and it's like, oh, wait, no, this one's going to push my boundaries a little bit or
mm,
whatever that is, Like I look at my third one and I'm like, oh, if you were the first one, I don't know if I would have had more kids because he's a
yeah.
little crazier, but it just works
Hmm.
out that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. I think you learn a lot about not just about parenting, about kids, about yourself, about your own temperament, about your own ability to deal with emotions yourself. Like I thought I was a super patient person, and I'm having to work through it a lot. Like practice mindfulness and meditation, and a lot of just like even looking back in your own childhood and reevaluating your own relationship with your own parents and how you view your own childhood. It's just a lot. It's such a big change in life, that I never would have anticipated.
Yeah, and you definitely pay more attention to your reactions
Hmm.
and things like that, right? Because someone's watching
Oh
you
yeah, oh
all the
yeah.
time.
When you hear them say something that you say or the way you say it, you're just like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Nam, for sharing your experiences and perspectives with us about your journey into tech, how you navigated having kids during the pandemic, and your deliberate transition from consulting. We look forward to chatting with you next week about your current work experience, work life balance, and things like that. Thanks again, and hope you have a great week ahead.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bites. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbites.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, at parenthoodbites.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbites.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.